chatting. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning into the BAMF podcast. This is our Wild Die Thursday edition. And before we go any further, yeah, sorry, I'm contractually obligated to play that. That musical intro lets you know, gentle listener, that this is a high quality, ethically sourced, farm to table podcast, bringing you only the finest production values. And we are here on Wild Die Thursday to talk to the crew from Atomic Ninja Studios. How you guys doing?
So far, so good.
Yeah, it's great to have you guys here. Let's go around the Brady Bunch grid. Introduce everybody. Dustin, directly beneath me. We'll start with you because you've been kind of quiet so far, sir. So tell us who you are and what you're about.
Well, I'm Dustin Smith. I'm a Scorpio. I like long walks on the beach, listening to Nora Jones. No, I'm just one of the guys from Atomic Ninja. You mostly know me from some of my one shots. I've been working on developing some products in house, but yeah, I'm just one of the owners.
Sweet. And well, thanks for being here. Appreciate you showing up tonight. Directly next to Dustin in our grid is Jerrod, aka Savage Daddy Gunning, with the majestic Old Testament prophet beard. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is my Gandalf in full effect. This is a leftover pandemic. I still have not returned to the office. Dave and I basically started the company along with Dustin and a silent fourth partner who's not here present.
He can't stand to be in the same room with us. It's okay. I can't stand to be in the same room with me either.
That sounds like a challenge. And last but not least, guy right over here, Dave. How are you doing, sir?
Pretty good this evening. David Scott. I'm one of the co-founders of the company, and I have to say, Jerrod, it was amazing that you took the pandemic to grow Reverend Fillion's beard to display for everyone.
Like you're preparing your return to the stage. You're growing your own nudity filter.
Yeah. Well, if I were Denzel Washington and this were a parody and the apocalypse were a parody, I would be in the middle of the street shouting, Gandalf ain't got nothing on me.
The dead shall not pass.
That's right.
All right. So, you guys have been creating content for Savage Worlds for some time now, right?
I think we're in the middle of our third year on our one-shot line, and that started 6 to 9 months after we released our first product. So we're right in that 4 to 4.5 year stretch for the company right now.
Okay, cool. So you guys kind of started with the SWADE, the Adventure Edition.
We were out a little bit before then. Our first product was a compilation of one shots called Savage Daddy's One Shot Wonders.
Okay.
That's a single book, single PDF collection of 4 to 5 one shot adventures. The idea being that you could easy enough to take and rip out of a book or print off and run at a convention or as a one-off if you don't have people for your party for the night. And they included adventures, some wacky adventures like Bubba Tech, which is really pretty much rednecks and mechs, like redneck Power Rangers. There's a zombie feature in there, as well as other assorted lunacy. That came out, and then probably about 6 months after that. That was before the announcement of SWADE, so that was still a deluxe product. Yeah, there you go. There's a cover of that. And that came out. And then about 6 months later, we started releasing regular one shots across multiple genres, your basic genres: fantasy, science fiction, adventure, and horror. And those come out once a month on the 15th every month. They drop and have been since for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, if you can see the virtual background, one of the products that we have is, this is, let me just kind of like, this is one of the ones that we came out with. It's one of our horror one-shots. It's actually part of a series called Farm Apocalypse. We got all kinds of different, we got like the one-offs, but then a couple of our one-shots are actually like mini campaigns.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I think I just found that cover, so I'm going to get you out of the solo layout there. So, yeah, I'm surprised. I honestly hadn't heard of you guys until I had Carl Kessel on a few weeks ago talking about Dust Bunnies, and he mentioned he did some art for you guys.
Yeah, Carl
So-
is.
Love Carl.
Yeah, go ahead.
Essentially, any of the art you see for our products has been touched by Carl. Carl's been our layout guy all the way since the very beginning, and we kind of term him in-house as our secret weapon
Mhm.
because Carl's the one that's really responsible for that high level of production value we've tried to bake into every product. The biggest thing that we did, we went out, we looked for different art and whatnot. Everything was always like 15 degrees off of what we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
So Carl would go in and he'd just do a Photoshop layer over top of things, adding filters and whatnot, and really, made things pop. I remember the very first time that we approached it with something, Jerrod sent him this completely incoherent description of what he wanted. And it was like Carl reached in, plucked it straight out of Jerrod's brain, and dropped it on a page for us within like 3 days. It was amazing. So Carl's been a great source of help for the company for the entire time we've been around.
Yeah, he seemed just look. I was really struck by a lot of your cover work. It's fun, and I kind of my personal aesthetic for the stuff I publish is I do a lot of one shots or shorter supplements, and seems like you guys are right in the same kind of design space. So that's kind of fun. Let me put up a gallery I've got of some of your covers. Looks like you guys are doing a lot with zombies here lately, but that end seems to be, like you said before, show that's sort of your primary product here lately.
It's something near and dear to my heart personally.
Mhm.
I've been a huge fan of zombies since Romero's Night of the Living Dead, and so on and so forth. I kind of consider myself lucky in the zeitgeist that my two favorite things finally came back into popularity. One being Star Wars, the other one being zombies, and that's what Dead End is. Dead End it started really as an experiment in Savage Worlds Deluxe, whereby we started doing a weekly play test with some very vague rules and ideas. The main idea behind Dead End is this is a gritty survival horror. The way I pitched the original playtesters was this makes Walking Dead look like Sesame Street. Walking Dead is not gritty enough as a zombie setting. It's too shoot 'em up cowboy for my taste. So we're gonna run a zombie apocalypse the way a zombie apocalypse would run. So the thing with Dead End, there are rules in here. You are just as likely to trip, break your neck, and die as a player character in this as you are from being cornered by zombies.
Yeah,
You're
this
is equal to die of thirst and dehydration and starvation than be attacked by a zombie. I didn't mean to talk to you, Dustin. Go ahead.
I was going to say that in terms of our design process, Savage Worlds is great for action, adventure, and pulp, but there were a lot of people that were diehard survivalists that were complaining that they wanted something that was a meat grinder. And, so they to borrow some of the whole live, laugh, love language, they spoke it into the world, and the world was apparently going through a messy divorce, and it said, "Hey, Jerrod, will you handle my light work?" So he came up with this meat grinder kind of setting for Savage Worlds, and pretty much nobody makes it out alive.
Well, it's funny that you hit us with the live, laugh, love line, Dustin, because honestly, I think kind of the motto behind most survivors from Dead End is live, laugh, lay down suppressing fire. Because you really can't take your foot off the throttle as a player in Dead End.
I have been a player in Dead End.
One of the things that stood out to us when Dead End first started, it was right near the beginning of the entire time that we did the GM hangout and whatnot. We talked about it quite a bit. We kept referring to our Friday night game, and we had viewers who kept asking, well, what's this thing you're doing? and Jerrod would talk openly about it. But what we realized, you never took your foot off the neck of the players. It was every session started 15 minutes after the previous session ended in game time. And it was literally, here's the next challenge. And Jerrod ran that with this entropy play style that most people don't understand anymore. When the original Romero zombie movies came out, it was about the fact that the world is soft because we have so much technology and so many systems in place to make it soft. But if you stripped all of that away, everything's on a constant cycle of decay. So Jerrod put us in a situation where as soon as we stumbled out from the hospital, we all woke up, from a coma we immediately stumbled into a field of broken down cars that was the old parking lot with zombies hanging out of the windows. We had to traverse that. And when we got off of that, we were immediately attacked by a biker gang. And each step of the way, there was never a time for the players to catch their breath, much less the characters. And Dead End really became about how far can you really go before you die. It's not can you survive, it's how long can you survive.
Yeah.
That is an old school gaming aesthetic.
To give credit where credit is due, like I got to give props to Dave because he was able to spot that Jerrod had this particular GM style that was based around the Romero, and is like, how mechanically am I going to get people to run a game the way that Jerrod will run a game where you're in a meat grinder? So he came up with the Infestation deck, and it's pretty much based around whatever kind of quirks people have. They make noise, they disrupt things. You're going to attract more zombies, which I'm just like sitting here thinking, how on earth did no one think of that before? You're drawing cards and like things are just going wrong. It's like Murphy's Law in a deck of cards.
Well, the crux of the design really was we had several conversations behind the scenes with playtest GMs, and none of them were finding that they had the same game experience of what the original playtesters had felt under Jerrod. And the simple fact of the matter was, none of them were cruel enough to the player characters.
Right.
As GMs, we've learned over time you can't be that vicious to the player characters all the time. There's an entire movement now of, you got to be the cheerleader for the players and things like that, and you want everybody to have fun. But the problem is it completely alienates that old school play style of it's a meat grinder and it's how far can you last.
And I mean, this is a horror setting too.
What the Infestation deck did is we set up certain triggers. If a player has their character make a lot of noise, like firing a weapon, yelling across the room, things of that nature, certain hindrances. We also put in if you kill a deer, that fresh scent of blood in the air. So you're going to draw these cards, and the cards are a plethora of things that go horribly, horribly wrong, from a horde of zombies shows up all the way to you've lost half your supply because that last group of zombies you ran away from, you didn't realize it, but you snagged your bag on a fence or something and tore it open. So you reach into your bag and realize half your food is gone. All your water is gone bad.
That's why
the cards are this constant need for the players to then go seek more survival capability.
Yeah.
So
I'll
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was going to say this too. I was going to say this real quickly too. There's one thing that we noticed in the play testing, and I refer to it as it's almost a Stockholm syndrome of the player characters. Where, see, the thing is, when you GM a survival horror game like this, your intent as a GM is not to actively go after the players, but more so to do a proper presentation of how this world reacts to their actions.
Right.
And this world is not kind. So by default, you can end up being seen by your players normal players who haven't signed on for this, who just sit down at a table, would go, "Oh my God, why are you being such a dick?" I'm not. This is a zombie apocalypse world. This is how this works.
Yeah.
And we were finding in the playtest, like Dave was saying, that so many of the GMs weren't comfortable pressing players in that fashion.
Right.
So the infestation deck is a way for that to happen without the GM having to be personally responsible for it or feel guilty about it. But what you find over play, and what we found in all of our play tests, and what we're kind of getting reports on from everybody now that's out in the field, is at a certain point the players just lean into the suck and embrace it, and that is a part of the fun of this setting. Is oh right, I fired off a gun and now here comes a horde of zombies over the corner. My bad, mea culpa. I was a bad player. I deserved this, and just giggling the whole way. We had one session where we telegraphed very clearly that the food that they were sitting down to eat with another group of survivors was poisoned. Players could not eat the poisoned food fast enough and die fast enough, gleefully going, I run to the edge, I go, screw you, and then I grab one of them, tackle him by the waist, we dive over the side together.
I was the only... my player character was the only one to survive because he was already insane.
And I mean, it's one of those things that until you experience Dead End at that level, it will always kind of evade you, because even now our zombie media has moved away from that meat grinder style, and instead now we have things like Zombieland, where it's all about how many zombies can you kill. It became this action combat thing. So we found that we drew a lot of fans from retired military. We drew a lot of fans from gamers who were in their 40s already and remembered that heyday. And so really to honor that, when I did sit down to write most of the rules during the SWADE rewrite, because Dead End actually fully existed under Deluxe. There was a ready-to-publish version of Dead End. Mm-hmm. We had quotes on getting it printed. We were ready to go to Kickstarter when we received the email from Peg going, so Aces, here's a preview of Savage Worlds Black, before they had announced it to anyone, before it was called SWADE. And it literally took the wind out of our sails, because we knew with where our Kickstarter campaign was going to fall, we were going to release Dead End, and like 2 months later, the Kickstarter for SWADE was going to launch.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience. I can empathize with you.
We found ourselves having to kind of kick Dead End down the road. Unfortunately, it also meant we all had to dive deep into SWADE and learn it from the bottom up as fast as we could. And then we spent legitimately 1 week and rewrote the whole setting. Yeah. So the Dead End that you see now, while it's the product of about 5 years of development, it was written in about a week and a half of actual heads down write time, because we had all the fluff. We had, all the monsters that just had to be updated to SWADE rules. We had all the NPCs. They just had to be updated to SWADE rules. There was a lot of work to do, but it was one of those, we were able to just kind of sit down and put our heads down and get through it. But when we did, we found ourselves looking at things like Max Brooks's Zombie Survival Guide and the original like Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead. We were going back and rewatching those movies and reabsorbing that. And admittedly, a lot of The Walking Dead ended up in there, influenced. There's a rule that as soon as you're bitten, if you can remove the limb you were bitten on before the end of the current scene, there's a chance you can stop the infection from killing you.
And not that it will. You have a 50-50 shot, maybe.
I mean, there's another 50-50 chance you're just going to bleed to death.
And that
or
was
die from the infection.
The Herschel scene from The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Here's the other thing too. We received a little bit of criticism too when we were running the playtest of this originally, and when we were announcing we were getting ready to go to Kickstarter, and a lot of people We're saying, well, there's no way Savage Worlds can do horror. You can't do a grindhouse zombie thing in Savage Worlds, and I beg to differ. You just this one thing. So in the original Dead End copy, we had a rule, and I think this is one of the penultimate first setting rules that came up in Dead End, and it's a system called the two things actually. It was originally called the setting rule was originally called Fate's a Bitch. We toned it down for the PG-13 rating when we released it to SWADE, but it essentially states when you roll a 1 on the wild die, you're done with bennies, no more. And then the other one is there is no soak. You just do not soak wounds. Forget about it. It's a little softened up a little bit in SWADE. So here's the thing I'll say with to anybody who's got a copy of Dead End right now. It's been SWADified. It's not as brutal as the original deluxe version. It's really been. I don't want to say nerfed. That's not the right term, but we made some compromises in the way it plays in the rules. So in the new setting, in the SWADE version or the version in print, you can only soak attacks from unarmed damage.
Yeah,
that's the only thing you can soak. If there's a weapon involved, there's no soaking.
You get shot.
Those two things alone make it very easy for your character to die in the setting. And that's not even before you.
I just want to touch on that fate is cruel rule for just a moment. A lot of people hear that and they go, oh, well, yeah, if you critically fail in the game, there's the setting rule, critical failures, and you can't spend any more pennies. But that's not what fate is cruel actually does. You can roll a success on your primary trait die. But if you rolled a 1 on your wild die, you can't spend a penny to re-roll that to try to get a raise. Once that 1 comes up on the wild die, you can't re-roll that any longer, regardless of what the trait die was. And that was one of those things that really people don't think about, how often they'll drop a penny just to get a slightly better situation. You know, you do it quite a bit, especially in post rolls where you'll drop 2 or 3 bennies to set that up to like a 12 or an 18 that the opponent has to achieve to win, to kind of guarantee that you get that raise. And in Dead End, that really doesn't happen almost at all.
As a matter of fact, it can screw you. Yeah. Because in Dead End, if you're trying to get raise greedy, right? Like, oh, I really want a raise on this attack roll. That's a success. I'm going to drop a benny and re-roll it. Great. Oh, you just re-rolled a fail, and you rolled a 1 on the wild die. You got a 3 on your fighting roll and a 1 on the wild die. You're stuck with that. I'm what? Yeah, no, you're stuck with that.
Yeah,
you don't get the previous
fail and whatever happens.
Yeah, you're stuck with what you've got.
We
can't re-roll it. Have luck.
We added survival rules based around infection and emotional and mental trauma to simulate what prolonged periods in the wilderness and prolonged periods without medicine or without a good environment can do to you. So your characters will be going nuts and probably dying of sepsis at some point.
Yeah, or they're gonna go and start having hallucinations because they've just seen too many of their close friends die.
I wrote the some of the fluff for like the survivor's journal, and if you read through Dead End and read the journal entries, you can visibly see the man just going insane as the book progresses.
And to be fair, nice. all of those journal entries also have a piece of art that is actual photographs of Dustin in various, apocalyptic situations, bandaging himself and slowly getting more and more bedraggled as the book goes on.
Yeah, we had this little bit where we were just under budget for art. So I talked to my wife and I talked her into just, following me around and taking photos as I go about my day. And so then we added some little effects, some makeups, and I think it looked pretty good. I don't know if you want to count me as the survivor, but I played him in the book, so that was kind of fun.
Oh, I thought that was a photo documentary. That was slice of life. That wasn't.
I was
you know, on
very, yeah,
stage.
it was my wife documenting her domestic abuse.
Yeah, great. I'll also say this about Dead End too. So enough of our own, chest pounding. Um, if you're a fan of Romero type zombies, slow, plodding, shambling, flesh eating, living dead, in a world turned upside down. If you're a fan of The Walking Dead, or if you're a fan of Romero's, Night of the Living Dead, those types of zombies, this is your setting. Just hands down. There is no other Savage World setting that really does survival gritty horror like this with zombies. That being said, the other thing too is when we originally decided to go to Kickstarter, we had decided at that point, you know what, we're going to hold the plot point off until after the main book comes out. We got to that point and people started to ask for a plot point campaign. So what's being shared on the screen right now is one of the installments from the Living Dead campaign. If you go to drive through and go to the Atomic Ninja store, there is the Living Dead campaign primer. It's a free download that will explain what this is. But in short, I've always seen plot point campaigns the way that Peg puts them out as being very similar to a series of a television show. So if this were Walking Dead season 1, then you've got 6 total episodes in season 1 of Walking Dead, if you're a fan and know that. Only 2 of them are really plot point campaigns. There's only 2 in there that really drive the overarching story arc of the first season. The other episodes in there are Savage Tales or interstitial off episodes, B-line story. So that's the approach that we took with the Living Dead campaign. Is we decided, you know what, we're just going to model it after the one-shot wonders that we're already doing, to where each month there'll be a single release, and it's either a plot point series arc or it's a Savage Tale episodic arc, and you only gain advancement from the plot points. Right. The idea here is, by the time we're done, this will take you through the first year of the zombie apocalypse, with structured play, release monthly, that will take the characters from 0 advances, novice rank, all the way through heroic. And that'll happen in 4 seasons, very similar to East Texas University, where rank corresponds with school year or a quarter. So the Living Dead campaign starts in spring. That's season 1. So it's the spring of the first spring of the zombie apocalypse. Where right now we just started, we're in the 3rd or 2nd episode of season 2, which is starting summer. And at this point, anybody who's been playing along has advanced through it, and they're now at season rank. Just right at the start of season rank. By the time we finish, they'll be veteran, and then we'll be on to fall, and then they'll be veteran, and we'll be on to heroic, which is winter, and that's where we'll close it down. When we're all said and done, we'll probably combine all of it into a single bundle, PDF bundle, or we're looking at other print-on-demand option possibilities to make it its own campaign setting book. But at the moment, feel free, even if you want, take a look at one of the episodes. Like I said, they're $1.99. They drop on the 1st of every month. Feel free. That's how the plot point campaign rolls out for Dead End.
All right, cool. And just for anyone who isn't watching and can't see the banners that have been flowing underneath the screen, tinyurl.com/Atomic Ninja will take you straight to their drive-thru RPG store, where you can pick up some of these adventures. You can follow them. They might have the coolest Twitter handle possible. They're at Atomic Ninja Stew, STU. And Facebook.com/Atomic Ninja Studios. You can find these guys all kinds of social media. So it has been great having you guys. I just wanted to ask you, you've got obviously Dead End, like we said, it's kind of your flagship, but you've got these fun kind of one-shot wonders you talked about, like Herbert's Head we've got here, where the players are playing different voices inside a schizophrenic's head. Is that, I got that right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's
inspired it's inspired by an independent role-playing game that was popular probably around the early 2000s called Everyone is John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun. Or I didn't read into this one, but I like the cover. The Bone of Contention, the fantasy one shot.
Yep, it's a lich adventure
Yeah.
in the frozen north.
So,
And go ahead. Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, after you.
Well, I was going to say, Dustin kind of touched on this earlier. Most of the one-shots are these one-off adventures. And when we first talked about the product, especially back when we were writing up Savage Days One-Shot Wonders, the idea was we kind of wanted an adventure or a book that you could roll up, stick in your back pocket, and show up at a con, meet a few people, and go into the game room and play. These aren't con level games where you will have done a bunch of prep and bring props to the table. These are con level games where I can open up my book, tear it out of the book, and hand it to the person across the table from me to give them their character sheet and whatnot. That was the initial thought behind the Savage Days One Shot Wonders book, and it led into this entire line of these one shots. But over time, they've evolved, and we have different lines of them. The one you have up on the screen right now is one I'm itching to let Jerrod talk about, because it's entirely like that's his brainchild. And for a while, we ran a weekly or bi-weekly, I can't remember exactly, session where every Saturday night, one of the two of us would run a game. And a lot of the games that ran during that time were these B-movie inspired things from Jerrod's brain. And now we actually have that going forward. Yeah. Jerrod?
Yeah, these are going to be in addition to one-shot wonders or as a supplement to them. That'll drop less frequently than we're going to continue with the regular 15th of every month production schedule on one-shot wonders. The thing with one-shot wonders too is every last one of them includes pre-gens at the back of the book. This is literally, here's your pre-gens, rip them out, go for it. The other thing too that you're going to find in most of the one-shots is none of the pre-gens have names or gender identities or any distinctions. So if you want to play them but non-binary, binary, whatever you want to do, go ahead, rock out. The pre-gens are there. Go ahead and use them. With Savage Days B-Movies, B-Movie Bonanza, we're going to basically be doing schlocky B-movie adventure one-offs. That'll happen less frequently, but probably about 3 to 4 times a year. Right now, we'll be dropping them. There'll be titles like Sloth Kano, Arachnoquake, Baboonami, a tsunami of baboons, Vampyramid. And I think I gave you the coming attraction image for Vampyramid in an email, Mike. The one thing you're going to notice at the back of every one of these B-movie bonanzas, there's a coming attractions poster for the next one. Whether or not we'll actually make it or not, but we just thought it would be fun to do at the back of every one is like, here's another ridiculous idea with a full B-movie poster art behind it. The first one is Sasquatchalanche, and that's exactly what it sounds like. It's an avalanche of Sasquatch.
I just got this cover, and oh my god, this is amazing. Give me 1 second here. I'll get that up for you.
Sure, and this is another Carl Kiesler original. So I'm gonna shout out to my man Carl Kiesler, the Machine. Love that guy. If you take a look at the Vampyramid one,
yeah, let's get that up. There.
That was me writing him literally one sentence that said, I don't know, spacecraft, UFO over a pyramid, and victim's eyes reflected in a mummy's empty skull sockets. And the tagline is, I can't remember what the tagline is. There it is. The sands of time run red with blood.
Which is odd because there's like a history between mummies and vampires. Like mummies didn't really have any kind of like myth behind them, so they had to use vampires myths in the movies.
Yeah. So, it's Attack of the Vampire Mummies from Space. It's the idea. Now, will we actually make this? Maybe. Maybe not. But
you got this cover.
But it's fun.
You got to do something.
It's fun.
Yeah.
So we're also talking about maybe strippers versus vampires, Attack of the Brain Eaters from the 12th dimension.
So Full Moon Entertainment, if you're still around, we are writers. We are available.
Well, and I mean, the thing to remember is everyone that's in the company is over 40, years old. We all remember that walk through the theater where those were the movie posters that were up. These coming attraction, big, beautiful posters for movies that maybe never made it because they ended up being the B movie straight to TV, the made for TV movies. A lot of that stuff inspires this because that was the entertainment we grew up with.
Oh, those were the great movies. When you went to Blockbuster, those were the movies you look for because they might have boobies.
Yeah. Or, I really wanted to rent Back to the Future. It was a new release, and it's not on the new release wall. What do we have over here in sci-fi? Ooh, this looks interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Anything with Rutger Hauer. It was great.
Blind Fury is an unappreciated gem.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. This is another cool cover I found on your storefront, Flight of the Living Dead. And as you say, it looks just like a movie poster from, back mid-70s, early 80s, maybe.
Yep.
Well, and the interesting thing with that one, if you actually have the one-shot adventure itself and thumb to the back of it, when you get to the pre-gens, they're all tickets. And again, it's Jerrod and Carl working together. Like, it's a ticket stub to get on the airplane that is your character sheet that's got all your character statistics on it. But it's complete with things like row and seat number. Mm-hmm. It's amazing what they did with it.
Yeah, those kind of handouts are great, aren't they? They really help, I think, draw people more in, create some immersion at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just to be clear, because this has come up, this is not Dead End Zombies. None of the rules, this is not a Dead End extension. This is a bad B movie.
Oh,
about a zombie outbreak on a plane.
All the time.
Yeah,
the trade address is so different. Yeah.
Yeah, if this were a movie, Samuel L. Jackson would be starring going, I've had enough of these MFing zombies on this MFing plane. This is not Dead End.
That's cool.
I'm also going to drop something here in chat for us real quick, Mike. If
go
anybody's interested, that is a link to a playlist for the Savage GM Podcast YouTube channel. That is only our Savage Saturday Night playlist. So we not only did these, we hosted live actual plays of them.
And I will.
So if anybody wants to, for free, wants to go check that out, by all means.
I will throw that into the show notes too, so people can find it because that is kind of a long and ugly URL. But
yeah,
I'll put it in the show notes.
Well, and that's from a time long ago. We none of us, I think, have touched any of those videos in probably 4 years.
4 years, yeah.
Over.
I will say this: the ETU episodes are primo because we actually have the creator of East Texas University as a player.
Yeah, having Ed play through some of his own adventures was really interesting.
That would be kind of cool to check out. So you guys been to Kickstarter a few times for past projects. Do you have any current Kickstarters that we should mention while we have you on the air?
Not really. Kickstarter, like we've had our experience with Kickstarter. One of the rules we have in-house, we don't start promoting something till it's essentially ready to drop and go on sale. We don't talk about things publicly until they're ready to go. We don't, like when we launched the Kickstarter for Dead End was 100% written. It was in layout already. It had already been edited. Like Dead End was done. We knew the fans were going to get it, and we guaranteed a release date, and we hit that release date even though the Kickstarter did fail. What we weren't able to do, we weren't able to take it to print. And unfortunately, that Kickstarter failed because of the economics of when we dropped that Kickstarter. It was right at the start of the pandemic. There was a lot going on that was causing a lot of those prices to be much higher. We were a first time to print studio, so we didn't have that relationship with any of the big printers in the space. So our Kickstarter was a really high amount, and we got a lot of pushback from the audience. Like, that's a big Kickstarter value. And what people have to understand, we were trying to get a hardcover book into your hand. Now you can get a hardcover copy of Dead End, but you have to pay drive-through a fairly substantial markup to get that hard copy. And we were trying to avoid that. it didn't work out, but we made sure Dead End was going to hit its release date regardless of the Kickstarter. And going forward, that's something fans can always plan on. If we launch a Kickstarter, that product is done. It's ready to go out the door.
Mhm.
We're using Kickstarter to fund things like any extras. We're using Kickstarter to fund things like a print run, things of that nature.
Yeah.
So none of that horrible Kickstarter limbo where you just get up to emails for 5 years and say it's almost done.
No, they're like, so with Atomic Ninja, we went ahead and released Dead End. We were like, well, what do we do now, guys? And I'm like, let's just throw it out there. It's done. It's like, are you serious? Like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go with vouchers. And that's what we did. And like, I've got my own studio that's separate, and I had a failed Kickstarter. So apparently I am like 2 for 3.
Well, and again, because of that same motto, Star City did still release Drowned War even after that Kickstarter.
You're
failed.
dang right.
Yeah.
We're come hell or high water, we're going to put it out there, and that's SCS or ANS. Both of us are going to make it happen.
Yeah, I think all three of us here, or all four of us in the company, actually just share the same ideal that if we announce something, then we're ready for pre-sale.
Yeah,
like literally ready for pre-sale, and it's going to drop. If we even announce a title, or say, "Hey, this is," we may say, "We have some things in development." We're not going to really say a whole lot about what those things are, but trust me, there are things right now. There are at least 4 things in full-fledged cycle development at this moment, and have been running for for months since we dropped Dead End initially, and since we
Go
dropped
ahead and tease the people further, Jerrod.
yeah. Come on, let's.
No, that's okay. Like
It's
I said,
delicious. It's deliciously absurd.
No. We've had this conversation. We're going to talk about some things tonight.
okay. Well, so do we want to talk? You know what? I'll let you kick it off, Dave, because I don't want to monopolize the conversation.
Well, the simplest way to do this is, one, Dustin already mentioned that some of the things you guys see in One Shot Wonders are from mini settings. Well, over the next 6 months to a year, we're going to release those mini settings. We're actually going to get them into a full PDF form. We're going to do the same process we've been doing with all of our other products so far. It's going to be printable through Drive-Thru-RPG. And we're going to release mini settings that support those things you've already seen multiple adventures for through the One Shot Wonders line.
Mhm.
You're now going to have a setting that lets you create your own characters instead of having to use the pre-gens. It'll have any of those special edges or hindrances that are specific to that setting. There's at least 2 settings that are going to come out in that way, the mini settings, that people have never seen before from us. They're things that have been in development. We have the rules all written. We just never got them to a point where they felt like a full setting release. So now we're going to pare them back, do them as a mini setting, so that it's something people can get in that playground and play with. And if we get a lot of interest, that'll drive future full-blown settings where we can take something and kind of upscale it based on, what our fans decide they like. And if they don't like it, well, it'll sit out there and it'll still be a low entry product. All of our stuff, like one of the things we talk about a lot of the time when we're talking pricing is it's less than the price of a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
We want people to be able to pick this up and give it a whirl and just have a fun evening with it. And we don't want you to have to spend what you would spend to take the family to the theater. We don't want you to spend what you'd have to spend on even a McDonald's hamburger. We want this to be something that's, for the price of a cup of coffee, you can sit down with your friends and have a great evening playing Savage Worlds.
So
Yeah.
And I will say this: under the current recession, a cup of coffee may be $12.99, but
Does anybody-
it still holds true.
does anybody mind if I talk about?
Go right ahead.
All right, so one of the great things about the One Shot Wonders is it gave us the chance to test out some settings that we were kind of on the fence on. And I'd mentioned Farm Apocalypse before. It's not really a zombie apocalypse, it's a mutant apocalypse. The idea is that everybody is forced to take a medication that prevent mutations beforehand. It's like it's a dystopian. It's like 15 minutes in the future, but the cyberpunk reality just collapses. Like the society collapses, and the medication that's supposed to prevent mutation, you're addicted to it. So the players have to keep taking it, and they have to synthesize it. And the only way to synthesize it is by killing the mutants and killing the monsters so you can collect it. So whereas with something like Dead End, your best bet is to run away from the zombies and run away from the horde. With Farm Apocalypse, you can't do that. You have to actively chase down the mutants that are trying to kill you so that you can attempt to create a medication to prevent yourself from mutating. So this is the first one that I tried. I did a mini campaign with a 4 adventure run just to see if it would work. And then when it was time to talk about mini settings, I was like, guys, this is the one I want to put up there. So Farm Apocalypse will be one of the mini settings that comes out in our booklet soon. So it's already got a campaign that you can work with and just fly from there.
And the best part is you don't even have to wait for that particular mini setting. The campaign's out there with pre-generated characters. Jump in and play through those adventures. They're already out there and available. And they're some of our best-selling one-shots to date.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like a really interesting story concept, even beyond just being a game. Just the horror of you're hunting these things to avoid becoming these things. And if you don't get the medication, you become the things your friends are hunting.
I keep trying to convince the guys that we need to take some of our settings and take them to like Kindle Vella and just like create like serials of it. But
I'm not a novelist, so
we're too busy writing the one shots to actually write the stories. But I mean,
hey, I'm a rules guy. I always have been. I don't hang the flesh on the page for people to go through the fluff. We got a guy for that. That's that silent partner. He writes, I want to say 85% of the fluff for the company. Yeah. If you read through our books and you read through descriptions of cities and some of the really nasty, interesting stuff that's in Dead End is all his brainchild.
Yeah.
Can we talk about his brainchild real quick? I want to salute him since he's not here. I want to salute our silent partner in Dead End for creating something that would not exist without him, and that is the Tragic Kingdom.
Oh,
the idea that Disneyland fell to the zombies and is a zombie stronghold. Amazing.
Which I know you love that because the concept of Night of the Living Dead being about consumerism and just mindlessly the fact that he was able to take Tragic Kingdom and like pin it, like I've never seen somebody just stick it so hard.
And you have one
song
of the
he can sing that's the theme song.
The main leader of that faction too. That main leader of that faction is walking around in a degraded park icon outfit.
Right.
Yeah.
Can we name check your silent partner, or is he silent and anonymous?
It's Jeff Friedman. He has appeared on camera a few times in the past, but he stays in the background. He's got some health issues that make it a little difficult for him to show up a lot of the time. It's really interesting. Because Jeff is not the public face of the company, no one knows his name. Mm-hmm. Jeff will go on to like RPOL and sign up and play in people's Dead End game. We've given away product to several GMs and groups over the last couple of years where Jeff signs up and plays in their game and happens to mention he has an unfair advantage.
That is pretty fun.
We love Jeff. Jeff's got a twisted sense of humor that is just awesome, and he's a machine when it comes to writing fluff.
Absolutely. So along with the announcement that we've got these mini settings, we've talked a little bit about sales throughout the night, and our fans have been amazing. We've had some pushback at different times. We've had a lot of feedback that they've given us. We've got some super fans that have, to a certain extent, inserted themselves into our regular lives. And, we've got a couple of them that have actually joined our regular, like, weekly gaming group that have been there since the very beginning. But interestingly enough, probably the product we've had both the most pushback for and the best received is one that we're going to bring a few sequels out for, and that's our Adventure Archetypes book. When SWADE first released, Peg had made the decision at that time to pull the archetype section from the core book. It had been there in Deluxe, but when they brought SWADE forward, they had plans for several other products, and they started just kind of giving away some of those archetypes. And we saw an immediate opening there. Since we had been heads down with the rule system for several months at that point, we dropped a book that we called Adventure Archetypes. It's available on DriveThruRPG to this day. We've dropped the price on that book a few times. We've spent entire months, I think there was a quarter where the book was completely free, and now I think it's permanently been set to pay what you want. So you don't have to pay us anything. You can pick that book up and have, I believe it's 20 different archetypes. And the interesting aspect with Adventure Archetypes, when we wrote it, none of the archetypes come with hindrances. You're allowed to pick your own hindrances. None of them are built to use a race. They are all built just using human without that edge. So if you choose to go human, you can add the extra free edge. But if you choose any other race that you want from any SWADE product that's come out since then, you just apply that race or cultural template to the characters that are in Adventure Archetypes, and they're ready to go to the table. And all the math is watermarked right on the character. It tells you how much was spent for the traits. It tells you how much was spent for the skills. Right next to each individual skill or trait, it's got a little number to let you know how many points were spent there. So they're also very fast to edit to get your own version of that archetype ready to take to the table.
It's like a cheat sheet for pre-gens.
And because we've had such a reception on that, we're going to break Adventure Archetypes down by genre, and we're going to release genre-themed versions of this book where you're going to get, here's your fantasy archetypes, here's your cyberpunk archetypes, here's your space sci-fi archetypes. And, some of those might have to be grouped together. You might have a couple of genres in a book. If there's too much overlap or there's just not enough in one genre, like horror is kind of an interesting one because there's really only so many trope characters for a horror setting. So that might be included with some like generic pulp archetypes. But we want to continue that product. It was one of those, it kind of fell into the back of our mind, and we forgot that we had a ton of material written for that never saw the light of day because of some stuff that had happened around its release, because of the focus we ended up putting into Dead End. Some of those products kind of ended up mothballed longer than we meant to.
That's a cool idea, and I like your Store and Cook art on the cover. That looks good.
Yeah.
So is this
that was one of those things that happened. We released it, and immediately someone was like, "Storm, this is all your art?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's the art that I sell." And we picked up a bunch of his stock art to populate it because it's such crisp art, but it also fits with the overall Savage Worlds art style that you see in the original SWADE book. Now, going forward, it won't all be Storm art in the future. It'll be some other art we've picked up over the years. But I'm sure Storm will also be featured again because, again, his art just really matches a lot of the art style you see in most of the PEG products.
So it was.
And Mike, if you want to open, if you since you're on the drive-thru site, if you want to open the preview, the feature preview, I think it'd be something you may want to show the audience because one thing Dave is talking about in that is you'll see parentheses for point values spent for everything. So if you decide, no, I want to qualify for this edge. I don't like that you picked this edge for this type of character. So, okay, what do I need to qualify? Oh, I need to raise agility or athletics or whatever. you can very quickly snapshot that, look at it, and figure out how the points were spent, so you can rearrange them as needed to customize it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you just keep scrolling down to the main, there you go. So take a look. If you zoom in, take a look at the ace or the assassin, you'll see little red text in parentheses. That shows you exactly how the points were spent to build that archetype.
Okay. And that was,
so if you
that was a discussion we had with Carl, and Carl helped us come up with that kind of a markup language to make it pop and stand out from the page. We knew we always wanted that information to be there. Carl found a way to make it so that it's not intrusive. If you wanted to just grab and read that character, you can understand it quickly. All the markup language kind of blends away as you're reading it, but it's all right there immediately available if you need it.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. It kind of looks like red lines, from a turning in a paper in college or whatever. The notes you get back from the professor.
Like spell correct, like they bled red all over your paper with corrections, right?
Yeah.
It's a key. It's kind of like a Rosetta Stone to how that character was built with points. So if you want to customize any aspect of one of those adventure archetypes, you can do it quickly and easily because of the way it's laid out in the stat block.
Well, this sounds really cool. Let's say I'm a Savage Worlds fan listening to this show, and I'm like, hey, I got to get me some of that. When are you guys going to be coming out with this archetypes expansion that you're talking about?
I believe the adventure archetypes, the first one for that one should drop right in at under 6 months. That's one of those, again, we've got quite a bit of that already done. We have to go back and some of those have been sitting for a couple of years now. We need to go in, we need to make sure that any of the errata that's been released for SWADE, any of the stuff that's come out with the new fantasy companion. Well, that gives us a whole new set of rules we can work with for some of those fantasy archetypes. We want to make sure there's the fantasy companion released 12 or 15 new arcane backgrounds. I want to make sure that all of those arcane backgrounds have an archetype built to run before we release that product. So there's a little more work left in that one than there is in some of the other stuff we've talked about, which is why it'll release within the next 6 months, but it's not something that we necessarily have ready to go out the door tomorrow. But because we do have so much work already done on that one, that was when we had discussed we were going to break one of our own rules and kind of announce it early, because it's been legitimately that is our top selling product of anything we've ever released. We've sold more copies of that product than anything else.
Dustin, what were you saying?
Here's what I would recommend. I'm sorry. Here's what I would recommend if anybody's watching and wants to get me some of that, so to speak. What I would recommend is go ahead and download the Pay What You Want product for Adventure Archetypes, and then make sure that you're set up to receive notifications about products from Atomic Ninja, because whenever we do release something, we blast that list of previous purchasers and let them know, hey, this is available. It's not a high pressure sales tactic or anything, but it's more of a announcement through drive-throughs or drive-through customer listing. If you're on that list to receive emails about new product releases.
Our one-shot wonders line, that's a guaranteed, 15th of every month, you're going to get a new one-shot wonder. The Dead End Living campaign, that's going to come out on the 1st of every month. With some of these other products, the best way to get that notification is we're gonna talk about it on Facebook, we're gonna talk about it on Twitter, but we're absolutely gonna send that email out to everyone who's bought something from us previously to announce those new products as they're being released. So that is legitimately the best way to stay up to date, short of join our Discord community. And the reason I talk about the Discord community is we've talked with our fans directly on that Discord community. We have a channel where we can go in and actually talk to them through the normal audio chatting, but we also have numerous chat channels where people can put in questions for errata, and that's where the errata document for Dead End really came from, is the questions we found we were having to repeat answers for. The stuff that people were coming to us and going, hey, this is misspelled, or the math didn't work out right on this, and some of those were just the changes that have happened over time with Savage Worlds that we weren't able to keep up with. have led to that errata document being what it is. But that's all driven by the Discord community. Our fans are amazing. They work with us kind of hand in hand to keep us updated on anything that we let slip. Because after all, Atomic Ninja, as great as it is, it's none of our day jobs. All of us have to do other things to earn a living. So Atomic Ninja, it's a passion project. I don't think not a one of us has ever made a dime from Atomic Ninja.
Not yet.
We do this because we love the stuff that we're releasing, not because we're making any money off of it.
Yeah, I can literally say literally every penny that we get from sales goes right back into the coffers for further development.
Yeah.
None of us have taken a paycheck on this company, not even one single penny since its inception.
I think that's part of like the issue is like if you have a job that's sort of creative in nature, you can't really expect to make like a consistent income. Like you'll hit some weird days, but I think like with our one-shot wonders, we actually are kind of slowly but surely building up a nice base.
Well, the nice thing too about the one-shot wonders line is it's an evergreen product.
Yeah,
meaning that hey, I need to run a horror. Hold on, let me go check Atomic Ninja's website and see what horror one-shots they have. Oh, there's a Pinata Apocalypse. Wait, what's this? Oh, it's 8-year-olds at a backyard party with a demon-possessed pinata unicorn. Sounds like fun. I'll download that for $1.99 and play it for a Halloween party. I mean, that's kind of what that content is there for, and it spans sci-fi. We have like pulp. There's cyberpunk stuff. There's basically every basic genre of role-playing there's a one-shot for it.
And we get those stories too, where a fan talks about, everything fell through that night. So they just went to the website, downloaded an adventure, and that's what their group did that night, so that they got to do something. And those are the ones that we love the most, because it's great when someone loves what you put out. It's even better when we know that what we put out allowed someone to have a great night of gaming when they weren't going to otherwise.
Yeah. And if you want to take some time and just introduce people to Savage Worlds, and you just want to like try it out so where they can play it, it's a way to do that. I feel like the one shots are the lifeblood of Savage Worlds as a system. And beyond that, like a lot of times what I'll do is I'll get one shots, or I'll get like one night adventures from other systems or other settings, and I'll just reskin them. So there you go. You got something to play with.
Sweet. Well, I will have your guys' Discord link in the show notes. It's scrolling underneath all our faces as a banner right now. And I gotta say, this was maybe the easiest podcast I've done in several months. I almost was just like the chaperone as you guys had your own show. So thanks, appreciate it.
5 years of doing our own podcast kind of shows a little bit, I think.
Yeah, this isn't our first rodeo, but I appreciate the sentiment.
It's okay. We're all clowns anyway.
And as a former podcaster, bringing on people who publish their own products and aces, you're welcome.
All right. Well, hey, folks, thanks for checking out the Banff podcast this Thursday night. Make sure you go to tinyurl.com/Atomic Ninja, and you can check out all this cool stuff these guys sell on Drive Thru RPG. And guys, thanks for coming out tonight. Pleasure talking to you. To all of our listeners and viewers, we'll catch you next time on the Banff podcast.
Hey, thanks for having